Hello, my name is Tracy Malone, and I am the founder of NarcissistAbuseSupport.com, a global resource for victims of abuse to find the help that they are seeking. If you are looking for answers or resources, please come and check out my website. You can find all about my coaching, my books, and all kinds of other things when you're there. Today, I would really like to talk about something that I hear from my clients on a daily basis, and I'm pretty sure you might be experiencing this. And if you are, it's time for an answer. Most people are afraid. Biggest fear after narcissistic abuse is that they're going to do it again, is that they feel like there's narcissists everywhere. They see them, they see behaviors in their friends, they see things that they didn't see before, and it's making them really frightened. It's making them think that, again, they're not safe and that they missed it before, so they'll miss it again. And that fear can be paralyzing when you go out there, or even helping you from not going out there and deciding if you want to find someone else. But the fear that there's going to be another narcissist is quite real. The numbers are astounding, and it's not, right now the numbers that are thrown about is about 8% of the population has NPD. I want to know and challenge whoever said that, because I can guarantee you 99% of narcissists are not being diagnosed and going into there's 8% pool. Very few go to therapy. And are we counting them? Is every therapist throwing their numbers in there? I don't think so. So I don't count the amount of narcissists. I count the amount of victims, because I can do that math. I can take 8% of the population, and I made a number up in my Divorcing Your Narcissist book that I said they don't just hurt one person. Minimum they hurt 10. If it's this spouse, then that spouse, the scorched earth trail is devastation to their children, to their siblings, to their family members, right? It's not just one person. So let's hold that number and say 10. And in my book, the math came out to be about 200 million victims of narcissistic abuse in the United States. So they're out there, and we have to remember we can be smart enough to do all this and know and have the confidence in ourselves to know we would see the signs, right? But then we go, wait, I didn't see the signs for 5 years in my marriage, or I didn't see it for 20 years, right? There were things that we didn't know what they were, but we did see them. We just didn't have the names for them, if we really are honest with ourselves. The gaslighting was probably happening, the lies were probably happening, the manipulation was happening, but we just didn't know what it was, and we thought they were just mean or angry or any of those sort of excuses or bargaining kind of things that we had to do to stay in a relationship and survive. It was a coping mechanism. But now you know what these things are. Now you know, dead spot. That was gaslighting. What just happened, right? That was this. I'm going to pay attention to lies. I'm going to pay attention to what they say and catch them in it and call them on it. Right? If you could call someone and go, hey, last week you said this, and then see what their reaction is. If you have the confidence to stand up to somebody who is lying to you, then you have a better chance of not attracting, or not even attracting. You're going to attract them because you're you. You're wonderful, special, kind, loving, empathetic. They want you. They want a victim that they can control. So sometimes it's a control factor. Sometimes it's all the good things that you are that they'll never be, that they need to kind of have a shield, and they use you for it. So they're going to have reasons to want you. It's you. You're the one that can change it. You're the one that can look at it and go, have I healed all the wounds that I got from this narcissistic abuse? Do I know what gaslighting is? Do I know what the effects of listening to gaslighting did to me? Like it weakens your trust system. It instills fear in you. It gets you angry. You don't feel like your boundaries were honored, right? You have to understand all of these things. You have to get better, boundary badass. You have to like really understand it. And if you're going into the boundary like testing process, I always say this one is one of my favorite little stories. If you're going on a first date, you're finally meeting this person at the bar for a drink, you could walk in there and say, I forgot I only have 2 hours, so let's make the most of it. And at the close of the 2 hours, they sit there and go, well, come on, we're having so much fun. Why don't you have another drink? Not boundary listeners. We can test 1,000 different ways to see if someone will honor your boundaries. You've got to have that in your tool belt, in your arsenal to go, I'm not just going to wait till they break a boundary. I'm going to freaking test them. I'm going to go, here's a setup. And do they say what they're going to do? Or if I say I don't like to be called after 10 p.m. at night and they're constantly doing it, not a boundary listener. Here's the part. If they don't listen to your boundaries, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to stand up for yourself? Are you going to call them on it? Are you just going to say, you know what? I don't want a boundary breaker. I'm out. That's where you build the confidence in yourself. If you go, okay, if they break my boundaries once or twice, I'll give them the test, Tracy. I'll test them. But if they fail, you still have to know what the heck you're going to do with them. And if you do know what you're going to do with them, then you have more confidence that if you run into a narcissist, boom, I mean, the chances are so high that you will. It's what are you going to do about it? How will you handle somebody breaking your boundaries? Well, you don't even know unless you actually start to establish them with somebody. And then we see if they win or fail. Then when they fail, what are you going to do? Do you have the confidence to speak up and go, hey, this is not good for me? And setting that boundary and testing them over and over and over again until you feel confident that they do listen to you, they hear you, right? Another wound that is hugely coming out from a narcissist is fears, right? Just having the fear that you might run into another narcissist is a fear. Having a fear that you're not good enough, or that you have a broken picker, or that you have a fear that you are going to do this again. Fear that you're going to be alone. That one is such a dangerous fear because if you're afraid of being alone, the narcissist will build the story and go, I'll never leave you. And then you get hooked, but you haven't done the due diligence, right? So that fear can be extremely paralyzing in a relationship. If you feel that you will not have enough money to survive and you need a person in your life, now the situation, the fear is doing the talking. The situation is scaring you enough that you'll settle on someone who will kind of fill that. I don't know if I can take care of myself on my own. So there's that. It's figuring out what your fears are and understanding them and understanding how they're vulnerable and how this could make a new relationship kind of go off kilter, right? Anger is another wound that most victims of narcissistic abuse. How could they? Who does this? How could they do this to their children? I've been married for 40 years. How could they do that to me? The anger that you're still holding on to is not going to let you be open to a new person. You're going to look at them with a lens of anger. Again, new person, maybe they haven't done anything, but if they do something that even represents a teeny tiny bit of what your ex did, you're going to be reactionary. That anger is going to just, it's like a seed and it just comes flying out when you end up with someone who does something. Now, again, if you're able to speak up and say, hey, what you just did isn't okay, and set some boundaries, then you are much stronger and ready to go out and date again, right? The next thing I would say that people get stuck on when they're going back out there and these sort of vulnerabilities to go out before you can trust that you won't be attacked by a narcissist again. Right? You have to know that, right? Shame and guilt. I teach a class on this and I'm like, what's the difference between shame and guilt? And people don't know, but they're holding it. They're holding it like a big giant backpack on their back. They're holding shame for what happened to them, right? So guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. And so when you look at I'm shamed because this happened to me, that I was married to this person for so many years and I stayed, and you've got all this guilt for staying. You stayed for the kids, you stayed for whatever reason you have, but that shame and that guilt is a controllable thing that a narcissist can wield to begin to control you. It's an exploit. It's a place for them to exploit you. If you are holding shame, all they have to do is tap into that shame. You know that your narcissist did that. If you had any shame, you didn't think you were good enough, you didn't think you were pretty enough, skinny enough, whatever it was, they would poke at that. They would make you feel worse, and then you'd end up staying because, well, it's part of our DNA. Gotta fix that. Understand and put down shame that isn't yours to hold, right? And understand appropriate and inappropriate guilt. Because if you are holding guilt for something you did, you can make amends to someone. You could say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to miss your birthday, or I didn't mean to do this. You can make amends for feeling guilty. And you can't make amends for feeling shame. Shame is an inner core. I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you for being with a narcissist, right? Let's make that really clear. You were targeted for your kindness, for your love, and for your support. And so, hold on to that versus the shame of what happened. I have the most shame I ever had with my last narcissist, and I had to let it go and put it down and go, wait, he's the one that did all these terrible things, not me. Sure, I felt bad for my role in it. That's accountability. A narcissist can't do that, but it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. So hold on to that. Learn how to fix that stuff. I think the last thing I want to talk about, which is, again, another major wound. There's thousands of wounds we get out, trust me. But trust is the other one. If you are afraid that you will meet another narcissist, again, we started by, do you trust yourself? And how do you trust somebody? Like, I teach trust again, another one of my courses. And so what I say to people, like, how do you trust? What's your policy on trust? What would someone do that would break your trust or build your trust? And they could build, and do all these good things in the love bombing stage. And then you're like, hi, I've got trust for this person because they've done these things. But what happens when they do something that's untrustworthy? And do you have a list of all the things that are untrustworthy? I believe that you should. And so, when you're looking at trust, it's looking at integrity for them. Do they do what they say they're going to do? Do they stay present and listen to you and remember that you had a big meeting that week or that day, and come home and go, how'd the meeting go? How'd that presentation go? Do they care about you, or is it all about what you're doing for them? And they want dinner on the table when they get home versus having care and compassion for your life and what's going on in your world, right? And then trusting yourself is, if you see someone with these behaviors that we've just listed and gone, I don't want that anymore. Do you trust yourself that no matter how good they look on paper or how long you've been together, because you could be there 2 years before you see some really normal narcissist behavior, would you leave? Would you just go, I'm out? I don't care if you got a cute kid that I've fallen in love with, and I love your dog, and you know, life could be so grand if we all just kind of combined and everything would be great. But then would you leave it? It's the knowing inside yourself that no matter how good they look on paper, if they do X, Y, and Z, I'm out. When you have that confidence, you will feel so much better and not be afraid of running into one. You'd almost challenge it, going, come on, you want to see? I got some stuff for you. I'm not tolerating that anymore. So knowing how to trust somebody, letting go of shame and guilt, figuring out what's yours to hold, make amends for it, figure it out, let go of what you don't need, understanding your fears that make you vulnerable, that can be so exploited, making your boundaries like super rock solid, and knowing that you have the courage to set one and the courage to walk away if they are not honoring your boundaries, instead of being sad they didn't listen to me, which is how I was. I would be like, why didn't they listen to me? Why didn't I leave is my question for myself now, right? And then really dealing with your anger. These are how you will feel more confident if you run into another narcissist, that you have a plan. This is Tracy Malone. I hope you like this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you so much. And I welcome you to watch me on YouTube as well, or follow me on Instagram. And visit my website, narcissistabusesupport.com. I coach people all over the world, whether they're going through a family relationship, a divorce, or any other narcissist, or they just want to heal and start to let go of these things. This is Tracy Malone. Thank you so much for listening.